It was a crisp autumn evening when the first fracture appeared in the foundation of my world. My wife, Claire, claimed she was out with her friends for a casual night of drinks and laughter, leaving me alone with a bottle of wine and an old black and white film flickering on the screen. We had been married for 7 years, long enough to know each other's rhythms, gestures, silences. But something about that night felt off. Her voice on the phone was a little too cheerful, her laughter strained, like an actress playing a part too well. Still, I told myself not to overthink, not to let suspicion taint trust. She returned just past midnight, giggling like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. Her cheeks were flushed, hair tousled in a way that didn't look like wind, and the faint trace of someone else's cologne lingered in the air around her. My stomach turned. But I smiled, swallowed my questions, and let her collapse onto the couch like everything was normal. "You're in a good mood," I said, setting down my glass. "Yeah," she beamed, eyes glinting. "The girls and I had such a good time, nothing crazy, just wine and stories." I nodded slowly, watching her carefully. She wouldn't meet my eyes, and her phone never left her hand. Something was wrong, but confrontation wasn't my instinct. Not yet. I decided to wait and observe, to see just how far the thread would unravel. The next morning, Claire was oddly chipper, humming as she cooked breakfast. Her phone buzzed again and again on the counter, but she ignored it like it didn't matter. When she left the room to grab something from the bedroom, I picked up her phone, palms sweating. We'd always shared our passcodes, a symbol of openness, or so I thought. That trust now felt like a cruel, ironic joke. The messages opened like a blade. "Last night was amazing. I can still feel your touch." The sender was simply saved as M. There were photos too grainy, low-lit shots taken in a hotel room. Claire was there, laughing into a glass of wine, sprawled across a man I didn't recognize. My breath caught in my throat. My world tilted on its axis, the betrayal crashing into me like a blow. I placed the phone gently back on the table. The calm before the storm. Claire returned minutes later, unaware. She smiled, handed me a plate of eggs, and kissed my cheek. I stared at her as she laughed about something mundane. A mask of affection stretched across her face. How easily she pretended. How effortlessly she lied. Over the next few days, I became a shadow in my own home, watching, listening, collecting the puzzle pieces of her deceit. It wasn't a drunken one-night lapse. Claire and M had been seeing each other for months, secret meetings, romantic weekends, passionate messages. While I worked late and planned anniversaries, she had been building another life. Rage simmered beneath my skin, but I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. Instead, I plotted. I gathered everything: screenshots, photos, receipts left in her purse without a second thought. I became meticulous, documenting it all. Then, I smiled. I cooked her favorite meals, laughed at her jokes, even surprised her with the idea of a weekend getaway. "Just the two of us," I said. She looked relieved, grateful, as if my renewed attention washed away the dirt she had rolled in. She had no idea I was laying the groundwork for her collapse. I booked a cabin in the mountains, secluded, picturesque, like something out of a magazine. She gushed over it, said it was exactly what she needed. I packed the bags, made sure everything was perfect, even brought along some camera equipment, a new hobby. I told her. She didn't question it. The first night we drank wine by the fireplace, told stories about the early years of our relationship, and even slow danced beneath the stars. On the surface, it was romantic, even healing. But inside, I was cold, calculating, waiting. The next morning, I told her I wanted to shoot some nature photos and encouraged her to sleep in. She smiled, burrowed deeper into the sheets. I left the cabin, but only for a moment. I returned quietly and set up the cameras inside, discreet, barely visible, capturing angles that would tell a story better than words ever could. When Claire woke, I suggested a hike, said I'd found a stunning view she had to see. She hesitated, distracted by the constant buzzing of her phone. She muttered something about work, faked a sigh, and slipped the device into her pocket. But I already knew. The messages weren't about business. That evening, I made her favorite dinner again, poured wine with an attentive smile. She drank easily, laughed more than usual. I played the role perfectly. When she got up to use the bathroom, I took her phone from the counter, typed a simple message to M. Let's end this. Then I deleted the entire thread. Clean. Gone. By the time we returned home, Claire had returned to her familiar rhythm, floating through the house with a kind of lightness that made my skin crawl. She reached into her purse at one point and suddenly froze. Her fingers rifled through it, eyes growing wide with panic. My ring, she whispered. It's gone. What's wrong? I asked, pretending concern. My wedding ring. I can't find it. I tilted my head, feigning confusion. When's the last time you had it? I don't know, she stammered. Maybe I took it off somewhere. Of course she had. I'd hidden it. That tiny band of gold, a symbol of our commitment, was now a weapon in my silent war. The next day, I placed the final piece of my plan where she couldn't miss it. A file on the kitchen table, thick with proof, photos, screenshots, dates, receipts, evidence curated with surgical precision. Claire found it minutes later. She paled instantly, fingers trembling as she turned page after page. What is this? She asked, her voice a brittle whisper. The truth, I said, calm as still water. The part you thought I'd never find. She tried to speak, tried to explain, tried to conjure some twisted logic to justify months of lies. But I held up a hand. No more words, Claire. I want you gone. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, we can fix this. I'll do anything. It's too late, I said. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I had already spoken to a lawyer. The divorce would be swift, brutal, and entirely in my favor. The evidence was overwhelming. The house, the car, the savings, it would all fall into place. She never saw it coming. As Claire packed her things, sobbing quietly, I felt no guilt, no regret. She had gutted our marriage, and this was her reckoning. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding. My life slowly took shape again without her. She, on the other hand, floundered. M had ghosted her. Friends distanced themselves once the truth surfaced. Even her family barely looked her in the eye. She was left with nothing but the echo of her own deception. One evening, I sat on the porch with a glass of whiskey in hand, the wind whispering through the trees. The ache of betrayal still lived in my chest, but so did a strange sense of peace. I hadn't just survived, I had taken back control. Claire's laughter no longer haunted me. Now I had my own, a quiet, satisfied kind, the kind that comes when justice is served not with violence, but with perfect, deliberate silence.